For this podcast, we're proud to partner with Zurich Life and Investments. As one of the last true independent life insurers, Zurich has always believed in the value of advice and the professionals who provide it. They continue to invest in programs such as this one that are designed to strengthen the health and reputation of the advice profession. They're excited about the chance to partner with us, XY Advisor, to help shape the future direction of advice and help make it more accessible to more Australians. To find out more or to check out some of the latest advisor support tools, visit the website or ask your Zurich BDM.
We all know education is one of the biggest things in the industry at the moment. It's why we've created the XY Advisor platform. It allows advisors to do short 4-week courses. And what we're really keen to do is to get as many awesome content providers in there. So if you're an advisor or a service provider who have put together an awesome solution which can affect change in the way an advisor does their job on a Monday morning, please do put together an application for us at www.xyadvisor.com.
Marcus Aurelius, what's happening, my man?
I'm here for Cat Fancy Magazine's podcast, a weekly podcast series on
Meow FM.
Meow FM. Turn the knob up to 11 and rip the knob off.
So
speaking
of ripping the knobs off, Mordor.
Segways.
Mordor.
Like Mordor.
How's the business going, mate?
Mordor Wealth. So the idea was originally to really niche down on the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit fans, and
yes. That's why I didn't realize that.
I didn't realize that there were only one of you out there.
For the uninitiated, Mirador, obviously, wealth. Yep. That is the correct pronunciation. And mate, we met some years ago now. Actually, all three of us.
Yeah, it would have been what, 6?
Yeah, it
6,
feels
7
like
years.
decades.
Yeah.
At AMP Horizons. We haven't aged a day, I will say.
No, 7 years we have. It's Clayton's birthday today.
I hear.
He's 37.
Yes. Shut up. 35.
Sorry.
Gosh. I mean, I feel bad enough as it is.
Drink.
Yeah. What's been happening, man?
Just living the dream, day by day, minute by minute.
Well, it's more brighter finance now, isn't it?
It really is. So for those listening that have never heard of me, which will be all of you, I originally set up an advice business from scratch, and after going through for a couple of years, also was finding that I was delivering a lot of mortgage leads to mortgage brokers, and thought, well, you know, I've been banking before. How easy would this be to get into? So, I started Brighter Finance as a mortgage broking business maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah,
4
wow.
years ago now. And that would be 95% of the business at this point.
Wow. Yeah, right.
So I very rarely do advice. I've got existing clients, but all the new inquiries at the moment, I'm sending on those to other advisors just because it's just what I'm focusing on.
Cool. Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? Because you were at Macquarie, then AMP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I've been predominantly doing mortgage broking for a couple of years now.
Yeah, wow.
How do you find it compared with the financial services side of things?
I'd say to those that are not doing both, that the amount of time it takes for clients to come back to you for an inquiry that's related to a loan application is about, 5% of the time it takes them to come back to you from a question.
Hey, wait, so people are more motivated to buy a home than they are to complete a trauma policy?
Right.
Get out of town.
It is shocking.
Cancel the whole thing.
Absolutely
It's
shocking.
ridiculous.
Lies.
And I'm as shocked as you are, because when I used to see 25-year-olds and explain to them the deep need for proper underwritten insurance as a single, non-dependent, unencumbered individual.
Unencumbered, uninterested.
The fact that they didn't get back to me in a month was just mind-boggling.
Yeah. Travesty.
After a lot of drinking of cask wine, I just decided that there had to be a better way of doing things. Yeah, so so certainly I still think there's a huge role for advisors to play. It just at the moment, it's just not where I'm focusing my time.
Fair enough. And so you're a married man.
I am.
Last few years.
I know. Mm-hmm. She signed up without being under duress. It wasn't even shotgun. And my mother's from Alabama. We do shotgun weddings. I mean, so the first most important thing was making sure that she wasn't my cousin. And then after we got through that...
she wasn't your cousin?
Wow. There's got to be at least 2 degrees of separation.
I thought the closer the better. Keep it within the family. Isn't that the Alabama thing?
All my cousins were male, and that's definitely not the Alabama thing.
It's an additional hurdle to climb.
I don't know how they would just get rid of 50% of the opportunity, but they do. So she's signed on the dotted line, and I'm just a doctor's wife now, which is fantastic. Which is what my dad always dreamed of for me.
Speaking of your dad, he was kind of the highlight of your wedding when he just pulled out that speech.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, which again is all of you, my wife's Indonesian, and after 6 years of being with her, I had learned 0 Indonesian. Ooh. And during the wedding speech, my father of the husband.
Yep.
Had to remember which role I was playing for. But father of the husband, gets up and does a speech in perfect Bahasa Indonesia.
Perfect.
Like for 5 or 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there like, you would do this. Absolutely horrifying.
Well, completely showed you up.
Absolutely. And even before, the night before, I said, no, you're not going to do anything stupid like speaking Indonesian. No. And then boom, straight into it.
Mate, it was perfect.
My God.
You had half of the audience with their mouths open, Marcus's side, and then the other side smiling, just like unbelievable. It was perfect.
They were so impressed.
Oh, mate, it was impressive.
Much more impressed with my father than they are with me. Which, probably fair enough, when we think about it.
Yeah. That was a great night.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness.
So since then, you'll be all pleased to learn that I have been taking Indonesian lessons for 2 years.
Well, selamat siang.
Terima kasih.
Tiramisu.
Tiramisu. Bintang. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I've got my bintang tattoos on both legs and the Southern Cross across my chest. We won't whip that out for the video viewers over here. Nice. Indecency laws in Sydney.
Mate, I didn't know that you were an Alabamian. Is that the right term? And that explains the baseball aficionado.
I think the official term is redneck. Hillbilly is also often used. But no, I mean, honestly, like my mom's side of the family is wonderful. We just visited them. Great people. We have fantastic time down in Alabama. But yeah, I was...
Wow. Good food, right?
Good food, yeah. So southern fried chicken, southern fried steak, deep fried pickles. You name it, it's just deep fried. So,
whoa, man. And so, okay, all right. Well, what's going on with this mortgage business then? How's it going? Is it doing better than the previous iteration?
Well, it is because I didn't name it after Lord of the Rings. So that was the key. So anyone's wanting to start practice out there, you can niche, but not too hard. So if you niche down to like philanthropists that are also interested in cats, you're going to have like 2 clients.
Yeah.
And yes, they'll be great clients because you get along with them. But it's just not something you want to niche too far into.
On the broking thing, how does it feel to be on the guest side of a podcast? Because you have your own podcast.
I do, yeah. So it's Cat Fancy Weekly. And we have many exciting guests. And we're sponsored by cat hair removalists. No, so being a guest, I mean, this is far more professional than anything that we would do.
Well, how do you do your podcast?
So we do our podcast out of a bathroom, because it's just softer walls and whatever.
Right.
That's what I've been told. So
Stadium sound.
Yes, that's right. Like the echo, we like it to be like a performance.
It's
piece.
grand.
Yeah. No, we do ours out of a serviced office in the city. So I run the business out of a serviced office. I get a few hours a week of meeting room space. And because most mortgage broking meetings happen in people's homes, I don't need the meeting room space during the day. So we use that as the location for our podcasts.
Where's most of your business coming from?
I would say it's a variety of sources. So we get a lot of referral business off mortgage broking, more than I ever got with planning. So I would say that of every client that we see in terms of mortgage broking, we're getting, 1 to 2 referrals from that.
Really?
And that's in the first 6 months.
Wow.
Whoa.
Whereas for planning, I have had off and on, but I've never had it sustainable like this is. Yeah.
Right.
So we get that. I get general inquiries. I've had inquiries from even things like bank websites. So a lot of the players that aren't, say, Commonwealth Bank, the smaller players have lists of brokers in your area.
Right.
So we do get some calls through that.
Yeah, wow. And the website as well?
We get a few through the website. I've gone a couple through the podcast as well.
Yeah.
But nothing to the level of the referral business that we're getting from existing clients.
I'm keen to sort of talk to you about the podcast a little if I can, because I imagine, especially a lot of XY advisors are keen on, doing something like that, and it's the business going to clients rather than this podcast business to business, a little different. What kind of drove doing that, and how'd you go about it, and what it cost, and is it a waste of time, or do you love it?
I think there's for the B2C side, so certainly is not to a level that you want to spend thousands of dollars in terms of studio and mics and so forth. So our total setup, we're now 25 episodes in. I think our total setup and cost has been about $2,000.
That's nothing.
But that includes the meeting room space. That includes the editing. That includes the intro, the outro. That includes transcriptions via rev.com.
Whoa.
That includes.
Is that for SEO? The transcriptions?
That's the idea eventually, although we haven't really focused on that at the moment. So. And all the hosting for like SoundCloud and Libsyn and everything else, and plus all the equipment.
So low barrier to entry.
Pretty low barrier to entry, and that's for 2 people. So if you have one person and you're just interviewing people over Skype or similar, it'll be even less, because I think the most expensive thing was the mixer to have 2 mics going at once.
Yeah, right.
Which we had no idea until the day before we started doing our first one. So I think it was a 4:59 p.m. on Monday that I was driving to a local sound and DJ shop and say, I don't know what I'm doing.
Can I get 10 turntables?
I need 10. I need 10 of your coolest turntables, mister. Yeah.
This is Marcus Aurelius all the time.
It's a wonder why our listener numbers aren't big. We've been doing that for I think we're up to month 4 now. So we knock out 1 a week.
Awesome.
And we try and do that in 2. So we try and always have 2 or 3 up our sleeve.
Yeah. And does it take up much of your time beyond the actual recording?
My time personally, no. Our process is we record. So we record on Monday morning. As soon as that's over, I send the MP3 file off to an editor. I send the MP3 off to rev.com. Within 24 hours, I get the edited version and the transcription back. I do maybe 40 minutes worth of show notes where I go through the transcription, make sure that it reads properly, and I put in the relevant show notes. And then go to the editor and say, yeah, it's fine to go push it live on Wednesday.
Wow.
So
Easy.
all in all, and especially if you're interviewing guests, if you are thinking of starting a podcast, I think things like interviewing guests like you guys are doing, so much better because you don't have to prepare as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just make it happen.
There is basically no preparation. This is the big thing about audio on demand is that more people can listen than can read, right? Everyone except for deaf people can listen.
Yeah.
And most people can read, but essentially it's unlimited. It's so easy. There's no preparation time. There's no planning. You don't have to sit in front of a computer and having written a book, my God, anything to avoid writing another blog in my lifetime, I'll definitely do.
Yeah, and to pick up on your point, Clayton, I would say that I hate writing blogs. Absolutely hate them. For the advisors out there that that love doing it, bless you, because it's not me. But I was finding that with one of the licensees that I was with in prior years, they wanted to review and edit everything that went on that website. So by the time I wrote it, it went to not audit, but it went for vetting to make sure that I hadn't instructed people to buy Bitcoin or that
would have been good advice way back when.
Absolutely, yeah.
You probably have more clients.
Truly horrible what people have invested in. But really, after it got watered down so much, and then there's a huge general disclaimer after it, like it got to the point where it was too much time, too much effort.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the stats of number of people that would read it, and it wasn't worth the time spent. So
yeah, and people are forgiving if you say something wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're doing a podcast and you say something a bit clumsy, you say
it's only my mother. Okay, it's only my mother listening. Like she doesn't, she's very nice.
So is that what you're trying to do? Is it trying to get people to listen, or is it trying to meet people, or just trying to have a catalog of people to get to know who you are?
I think for Michelle and myself who are doing the podcast, we've really done it as our goal was to provide property advice that was without the sell. So I listened to a number of podcasts over the last few years, and I've listened to a number of speakers, and I've gone to presentations, and there's always a hard sell somewhere. It's always either, off the plan developments, or it's always, get them into a seminar so that you can get them onto the
off the plan developments.
Off the plan developments, as it always ends up being. So we wanted to provide, I guess, basic facts, basic informational type advice for people that were buying their first home or looking to buy their first home in the year ahead.
What's the name of the podcast?
Oh, it's Sydney Property Insider.
Sydney Property Insider. Awesome.
And one of the cool things, and maybe for you to talk through, is the suburb profiles.
Yeah, so the suburb profiles have been one of our most popular. Certainly when I look at the stats, we will do an entire episode where we just base it on, so for example, Merrickville, where we'll talk about, the local schools, the school zonings,
the history
cafes,
as well. That was a really cool one, the Merrickville one.
Yeah, so it's a way of people that, like, for my wife and myself, we didn't ever consider like Merrickville when we first started looking for a home. But once we started looking, that was a nice suburb, but we really didn't know that much about it. So I guess having a 20-minute episode that also has some links to various local sites so people can have a further read, go to a local cafe one Saturday morning, they get to know the suburb a bit more than just seeing it on domain.com.au.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's just like it's just helpful information about the suburb. Awesome.
Well, tell us something interesting. No pressure.
About what?
About Merrickville. About
Merrickville. Oh, it used to be part of a huge estate that was eventually split up into various packages.
Right.
And it does have a very vibrant community, but it also has one of the most dense. It has one of the highest number of liquor applications in the past 2 years.
I understand, because when you initially started, your point was it has a very vibrant community. I wasn't quite sure what that meant until you completed with the conclusion of because of the most amount of liquor licenses.
That's right.
Oh, right.
So 2 a.m. and it's just outside those lockout law zonings. So yeah, it's quite nice.
My favourite bar in Sydney is in Marrickville.
What's that?
Lazy Bones.
Don't know it.
You walk down Illawarra Road, I think it is in Marrickville. And it's really unsuspecting. You walk up the stairs, and it's just this big floor of like Chesterfield lounges, deep, rich curtains. It's beautiful, and it's this jazz club, and it's this old dude who will stay open much more later than he's allowed to, and be really generous with the drinks and all that stuff. He just loves the music.
Whoa.
Super cool.
What's it called?
Lazy Bones.
Lazy Bones.
Yeah.
How much of a referral fee do you get for this?
Enough.
He is the
lazybones.com.au and please use the code RAY at the door.
Ray.
No, I mean, maybe for those listeners that are thinking of, I guess, setting up a podcast, other things to think about are, getting a list of things that you want to talk about, especially if you're doing it as an advisor. So I think as advisors, which I imagine most listeners are, I'd probably still check with the licensee to see what their requirements are. I know I did for the podcast we do, and that's as a mortgage broker. So I still check with the licensee to see what I could and could not say. And I would also put a general disclaimer on show notes, transcripts, anything. You guys know what you need to do.
Well, you're on the more diligent end of legalities. It's because your dad's a lawyer or something, right?
No, Dad's unemployed.
I believe we call that retired.
Yeah, well, he's spending the kids' inheritance. So
on Indonesian lessons.
On Indonesian lessons, which certainly helpful in making his son look bad. Yeah, I always think of things, and this goes back to when I was doing as advisor. I always think of things of how do I, what happens when everything goes down and I end up standing in court. And it hasn't happened yet, touch wood. And, I don't think that we've ever done anything that would be seen as less than the right way of doing things. But I always think of, if all of these things go wrong, what do I have to fall back on in terms of like the disclaimers, in terms of things that, things that I've said, things that I've documented, things that I've got on file.
Yeah, speaking about things going wrong, AMP just notified 300 advisors.
Oh, I heard about this, yeah.
That they've done something wrong and they need to potentially find a new home.
Who's done something? As in the advisors or the licensee?
Yeah, really new. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So as a follow on from Dover, where no one knows how many of so-called the bad apples were in Dover. I think to paint that whole license as full of bad advisors was appalling.
Yeah.
And to be forced to shut up shop, I think was horrible. And I'd love, over the next couple of months, it'd be good to really chase up some of those advisors and see where they ended up and how
what that process was like.
Because I fear it's going to continue to happen, and 300 AMP advisors were just notified.
So what does that mean, though? That's the licensee saying they've done something wrong, or the 300 advisors saying they've done something wrong?
No, it's the licensee saying to these 300 advisors that they're
shutting up shop.
Well, let's see, because
it's
very new information, so I'm not quite sure how it's going to roll out. But the reason I bring this up is you went through a couple of dealer groups, right?
I did, yes.
And what's your experience like?
So my experience is when you start with a dealer group or start with a licensee, do your homework on that licensee in both talking to the people that are from the licensee themselves, and then speak to the advisors that are actually in that licensee or that are ARs. So yes, when I started the business, I was with a different licensee. After about 6 weeks, I realized that it wasn't the right fit for me. Because
6 weeks?
Yeah,
wow.
I ended up being there for about 4 months because I wanted to check and find, the right home for longer term. But I would say after the first 6 weeks of being there, I saw things that I wasn't, it just wasn't the licensee for me. They weren't doing anything wrong. It just things that I would send up for either vetting and the questions I would get back just didn't make sense to me. And I'm very simple. So I started looking elsewhere. And so I have a few existing clients, but we're not taking on new clients at this stage. But the licensee I'm with, which is Synchron, I certainly agree with their findings. Whenever they've done audit, it's come back completely clean. But it's the information they've provided about, okay, so here on this page, you might want to add 2 sentences because of this reason. It's the because of this reason that I find really helpful. Not just, you need to do this. It's the reason we're doing this is because this will assist when your clients read the statement of advice. And to me, that's much more the
practical,
helpful part, because it's not just a prescriptive, you need to do these 34 things. It's, let's have a look. Let's make sure that the story makes sense from client came in to see you for this, client walked out and they received this, what they had asked for. So I'm very happy with the licensee I'm with now.
Synchron cool with the podcast?
Well, I don't do as an advisor, so so I haven't thought through this one. But again, for anyone listening out there, I'm just a mortgage broker, just trying to get by every day.
Just memeing cats.
Just
everywhere.
just cat memes.
How is
That's
Boots,
it.
by the way?
Boots, our ragdoll. He's 6. We have a 1.5-year-old dog. So,
Beautiful dog.
Yeah. So she's horrible, but she just tears her way through anything.
It's his big poodle.
Yeah, she's a she's a Labradoodle. Yeah.
Okay.
She's not this big, mate. For those listening, Clayton just put it up to his head. No, she's not 6 feet tall. She's just a Labradoodle.
But why would you get...
Clayton, you're not married yet, mate.
Correct.
When you get married, you'll understand that you don't have a say in many things anymore. And you should just remember, yes, dear, or whatever you want, is always the best
I was wondering what
answer.
that tattoo was on your wrist.
Yeah, it was yes, dear on the left and whatever you want on the right.
Yeah, Clayton's actually getting married next month in Finland.
That's right.
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah, for sure.
One more to the grave.
So what do you kind of see as like the tomorrow for mortgage broking? Because obviously there's a lot of changes going on in FID services.
Yeah. I think mortgage broking will certainly have changes as well. I do feel that there's a slight difference from the way that it's viewed compared to the way that planners are viewed. I'm certainly not the expert in this, but when I speak to people that are not in financial services about planning versus mortgage broking, they totally understand how a mortgage broker brings value. Planners still have a bit of that, sadly, that negative belief around them. Right. So it's interesting the feedback I've gotten when I've presented myself in the last, I guess, couple of years as a mortgage broker versus a financial planner.
Yeah.
So mortgage broking, there's always a conversation that leads from it. Planning, it's, oh, you're a planner, and that's where the conversation ends. And I'm totally saying that could just be me, but I know of some others that do both. Again, that's been their feedback as well.
What do you think about? Do you think there's any conflicts in mortgage commissions?
Okay.
I just don't know. I personally don't. Even though I've never done a mortgage, I don't think there's a conflict simply because the decisions are being made by the client independent of the mortgage broker. Sure, there's a pre-approval, right? But technically, even that, the mortgage broker is simply just executing what the reality is, right? And so people are going. I disagree with the concept of getting a pre-approval, finding out what your maximum is, and then trying to find a house to fit that. Like, I disagree with that, but we don't live in a society where you can't do that. So of course that's what people are going to do. With that said, the mortgage broker is simply just executing what's being asked of them, and then they're simply executing the mortgage once the property has been purchased. So I don't see a conflict. Do you?
I think there is to a slightly more degree than what you're presenting it as, which is that big brokerages. So if you were an advisor and you were working for an AMP of the world that has, so in mortgage broking, let's say Aussie or Mortgage Choice or someone like that, and that's not the best model because it's to explain because it's a franchise model. But if you're writing $100 million worth of business or $100 million worth of loan, and all of that is going to one individual bank, that bank may pay that broker slightly more than they would if I came in and said, this is my first loan putting with Bank A.
Right.
So by that token, yeah, I probably would like to see it be an even playing course across the field so that when you
volume bonuses. You're talking about
volume
volume bonuses.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the world of planning years ago before I got involved, those certainly existed and so forth. I think those will go eventually.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I didn't know that.
You can't actually switch off commission on a loan, can you?
No, not
Super
really.
weird.
Yeah, so there's a way that you could rebate it, but it's almost it'd be like tooth and nail trying to get that done because it comes to you as one payment each month. So you'd have to separate it down to the dollars and cent and rebate it, and it's just not a model that's currently really rolled out by a lot of people. I know a couple of brokers that do it, but I don't know many. Yeah. So I think, and to your point about, really about how much people going to a broker and just executing, I think it's a little more than that. So if I think about through sort of the last few clients that I've seen, they've come to me with needs, sort of like they would as an advisor. They come to you with needs, and you find a few solutions. I do it a bit differently than other brokers. I go back to them with 3 options and say, based on what you've told me, and present almost a statement of advice, for lack of a better term. I provide sort of a 20-page document that goes, okay, so Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you've come to me, you want to buy your first home, you want principal and interest, you're worried about interest rates, but you also want the flexibility to pay down your loan when you have extra money come through. As a result, here are 3 options. This is what the cost would be. These are what the benefits are. These are what each bank has this feature.
Yeah, right.
Which one sounds best to you? And they say, well, I don't know. You're the expert. You tell me. So based on what your needs are, this will cost you this will cost you that, and this will cost you X. This is the cheapest, but also might not have the right features. So I'd be going with the middle of the range. They say yes to that, and then we put the application through. So
fantastic, man.
I'd say it's a bit more than I've never had someone come to me and say, I want a Bank West loan. Do it for me. It's a lot more like I don't actually know what I want.
But I want Rams.
But I want Rams. But I don't know what I want. But I walked into a CBA branch and they're doing 3.68. Can you beat that?
Right.
Very rarely.
And is that where, when you say you get referrals, is that you trying to compete with price?
No, I haven't had it yet on price.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm not about going for the cheapest option. It's about what the right option is. Now, it still has to be competitive. But if it's 0.04% more and includes an offset account, and the clients have
0.04. Yeah, so 4 basis points.
Yeah,
difference.
so,
yeah. Sorry, I meant people coming to you asking, oh, we've got this loan, could you do it cheaper?
We get some refund. So certainly I've had some
That's
where
called
they've had...
refi.
Refinancing, man. Experts in their field across the table from me.
Now, let me write that down.
Refi.
So we've had some where they've gone into a branch 3 years ago, gotten an interest-only loan for their house or for their home loan, and that interest-only period has rolled off and they've gone back to what the full variable rate is.
Right.
So they say, we were paying 4.1, now we're paying 5.3.
Yeah.
Why is that? And I know that we could get that at 3.7 or 3.8.
Is that what people are paying?
Yeah, well, it depends. And a lot of people don't open their bills.
Yeah.
Like, they just have the money come into their
Yeah.
checking account, or they come into the savings account, or into their home loan offset account, and it just goes off once a month.
Serious question. How many people walk in and say,
I'm a Lord of the Rings fan.
No.
I am interested in buying the Shire. No one has ever done it.
No. So what about this? Hey, Marcus, I've got equity. How many jet skis can I get?
I haven't had any of those clients.
You haven't had
No.
you haven't had people
I
want to
haven't
pull
had
out the
anyone-
equity for jet skis?
Not for jet skis,
Ah,
no.
to me, that I just would love for someone to walk in and be like,
hovercrafts. Yes.
to go shoot gators.
Now I've had people that have wanted to take money out for a holiday or for renovations or things, but not for anything like a jet ski. Sadly,
superfluous
I'm not getting the right
indulgence.
clients. Obviously,
Is there a revenue thing in that for as a broker? If someone knocks on the door saying I need 50 grand because I want to do something, does that create an opportunity for you commercially?
Well, then it's a refi.
Is it though?
It's a refi.
So-
I swear that's a refi.
So there are examples where. So I'll give you an example. When you do it's very similar. If you think about insurance, the way that we may have done insurance in the past. I haven't done one in a year now, so I couldn't tell what it's like at this point. But in the past, where you had an existing client that had fully underwritten on standard terms of 500 grand of life cover, and they've come back saying they wanted to take it to 600 grand. You had to do a full new application for that $23 or something that you were going to generate, and you did it without cost because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But commercially, it doesn't make sense.
Gotcha.
We still get that through broking because people might want 10 grand out or 20 grand out, but it's about the overall relationship. You don't say no to people because it doesn't make sense to you. So you have to wear some of those losses on the basis of, okay, I'm doing this, but they know that I'm here when they buy their first investment property.
Interest only redraw facility. Gotcha.
Nice.
With 2 jet skis.
Nice.
And cat memes. All right, mate. Well, it was kind of interesting because we had someone drop out last minute. And then
And you knew that I had nothing to do with my time. And that's why Ray called me and said, Mark, I know you've got nothing to do. I went, that's right, I don't.
I'll come in for a beer.
I'll come in. I mean, there was beer. I got to see a professional set up. And
we'll
this has been
qualify that
fantastic.
properly. Marcus called me and said, "Hey mate, I just finished a PD session. Do you want to grab a beer?" And I was like, "Well, as long as there's a microphone." Yes.
We did it. We got there.
We got there.
It's worked out fantastically well. Theoretically, if someone wanted to reach out to
They don't. They don't. No one wants to follow our cat meme Twitter handle. But if they want to listen to Sydney Property Insider podcast, you can certainly do so. Find it on where all good podcasts are available, including the not so good ones like ours. We're still in our early days. We'll get there.
And Brighter Finance.
And Brighter Finance is brighterfinance.com.au.
Awesome. Easy
And
peasy.
Mordor Wealth Management, of course.
Is
We've
your
shut the
competition.
website down, so there is no Mordor Wealth. So stop looking for it, everyone.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for coming on, mate.
No
Appreciate it.
worries.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
Cheers.